There's a quiet pattern that's become too consistent to ignore. The people who describe the deepest confusion, the most lasting damage, they tend to share the same core traits. They're highly empathetic, intuitive, the kind of people who feel other people's moods in their own bodies and give the benefit of the doubt long after anyone else would have walked away. And yet, these are the very people who seem to attract a specific kind of harm. You talk about partners who slowly rewrite reality until you're not sure what happened. Friends who gather your vulnerabilities like currency only to spend them against you. Family members who provoke you until you react, then point at you as the unstable one. The details change, but the aftermath is always the same. Confusion, self-doubt, exhaustion, and always the same question. Why do they do this? Why doesn't it seem to matter how much they hurt me? The uncomfortable truth is this: you are trying to understand them as if they operate like you do. You assume that if you just explain your pain clearly enough, empathy will wake up. But for a certain class of personalities, that assumption is the mistake that keeps you trapped. Psychology doesn't use vague labels like toxic. It uses a far more precise framework, one that explains why your usual tools never work on them. It's called the Dark Tetrad of personality. The Dark Tetrad isn't a mood. It's a stable cluster of 4 personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and everyday sadism. And understanding this framework is critical because it reveals you're not dealing with someone who lacks information. You're dealing with someone who lacks the same internal constraints. You're using tools for connection, honesty, vulnerability. They are using tools for dominance and control.
The mismatch isn't accidental, it's structural. Narcissism provides the hunger for admiration. Machiavellianism supplies the strategy. Psychopathy removes fear and guilt. And sadism? Sadism introduces the enjoyment of another person's pain. You're not failing to reach them. You're trying to negotiate with a system that was never built for mutual care. The first trait you usually notice is narcissism because it's loud. These individuals can be magnetic, confident, and charming. But that confidence is built on a fragile foundation that needs constant validation. Praise is oxygen, and when that supply is cut off by a small criticism, a boundary, the reaction is extreme. The warmth vanishes, replaced by a shocking anger or contempt. Psychologists call this a narcissistic injury, and it must be neutralized at your expense. Where narcissism is reactive, the second trait, Machiavellianism, is calculated and patient. These individuals think several moves ahead. To them, relationships aren't bonds, they're systems to be optimized. People are resources. Trust is something to be exploited. When you confront them, they don't explode. They deflect, rationalize, or reposition the pieces on the board. You're speaking the language of connection. They're operating in the language of advantage. But what happens when you remove the brakes entirely?
That's psychopathy. It's defined by a profound absence of fear and remorse. The internal warning systems most of us have, anxiety, guilt, are weak or missing. They take risks that would paralyze a typical person, not because they're careless, but because their nervous system simply doesn't register danger in the same way. But even that doesn't explain the unnecessary cruelty, the comments designed to wound, the subtle smiles when you're distressed. That's the fourth trait, everyday sadism. It's the tendency to derive pleasure from another person's discomfort. For these individuals, your suffering isn't collateral damage. It is the reward. Neurologically, causing you pain triggers a dopamine response in their brain. Hurting you feels good to them. It provides stimulation, a sense of power. And for an empathetic person, that is the hardest part to accept. You look for a reason, but sometimes the reason is simply that it satisfies something inside them. This raises a deeper question. If these traits are so alien, where do they come from? Are these people shaped by their past, or are they built this way from the start? The answer is more complicated and more sobering than most people expect. It's one of the most difficult realizations for an empathetic person. Not all harmful behavior is a reaction to pain. We want to believe that if we dig deep enough, we'll find a wound, a trauma that explains everything and makes it fixable. But the science doesn't fully support that hope. Behavioral genetics paints a more complex picture. Traits like psychopathy show a strong biological foundation. These individuals are often born with differences in the brain regions for fear and emotional processing. They didn't learn to be fearless. Their nervous system simply doesn't respond the way yours does. The alarms that go off in you are quieter or absent in them. Other traits, like Machiavellianism, are shaped by environment, often a cold, chaotic childhood where manipulation works better than honesty. When a genetic predisposition collides with a reinforcing environment, the result is a personality that is remarkably stable. It doesn't respond to love or insight. This isn't pessimism, it's realism. The issue isn't why they won't change for you. The issue is why you expect change from a system not designed for it. And yet, there's a mystery. If they lack genuine empathy, how do they hurt you so precisely? How do they know exactly which words will land? The answer lies in a psychological switch. Empathy isn't a single ability. It's two separate systems. First is cognitive empathy. The ability to intellectually understand what someone feels, it's pattern recognition. The second is affective empathy. The ability to feel what someone feels, that's the echo that creates compassion. Manipulative individuals are often experts at cognitive empathy, but severely deficient in affective empathy. They know you're hurting, they just don't feel it. Brain scans confirm this, but it gets worse. They can often activate this system deliberately. During the intense bonding phase of a relationship, they turn it on. They mirror your emotions, making you feel deeply seen. It's a performance. Once attachment is established, the switch flips off. What remains is the data they've collected, your fears, your triggers, your longings. All of it is now used not to connect, but to control. You keep looking for the person who felt so real, not realizing it was never rooted in reciprocity. They weren't seeking intimacy, they were seeking access. And that leads to a difficult truth. You were not chosen at random.
It's tempting to believe it was just bad luck, wrong place, wrong time. But predators don't move randomly. They observe, they test, they select. They scan for specific signals, high empathy, a willingness to forgive, a tendency to give others the benefit of the doubt. If you struggle to take up space or assert your needs without guilt, you are especially visible. To a manipulator, this is the perfect opening. Your silence becomes permission, your patience, territory. The process starts small. A minor boundary violation, a subtle disrespect disguised as a joke. If you explain it away or try to smooth things over, the signal is clear, the door is open. Once inside, they establish control through a process that makes gambling addictive, intermittent reinforcement. If they were cruel all the time, you would leave, so they alternate, warmth, then withdrawal, affection, then punishment, just enough kindness to keep hope alive. Your nervous system becomes trapped in hypervigilance, creating what's known as a trauma bond. It feels like love, but it's an addiction to the source of relief from the pain they themselves created. Then the gaslighting begins, the systematic erosion of your reality. Events are denied. Your reactions are reframed as instability. Your internal compass stops working. Prolonged abuse literally alters the brain, shrinking memory regions and putting your body in constant survival mode. By the time you realize something is deeply wrong, you're functioning from pure exhaustion. And that's by design. It's easy to look at them, moving through the world without guilt, and think they have it figured out. But that perception leaves out the cost. Their internal world is profoundly limited. They are trapped on a hedonic treadmill, chasing stronger stimulation just to feel anything at all. They can't access trust, mutual care, or the satisfaction of being truly understood. They understand the lyrics of emotion, but they cannot hear the melody. They can be admired or feared, but never truly known. Don't envy the machine. It runs fast, but it runs empty. You've been trying to solve a hardware problem with emotional software. You were playing for connection,
while they were playing for control. Their behavior is not a reflection of your value. You weren't targeted because you were defective. You were targeted because you carry something they lack: empathy, depth, richness. So for now, pause, breathe. You're not imagining it. And knowing the truth is how freedom begins.